Welcome back. Another big episode dump here. See what I got here? I was going to do originally a review of the episode Rip Fu Hustle, and unfortunately I deleted the file. So you're stuck with this one. Okay. It is kind of interesting that Rick is suddenly a petty person again, considering we had a couple seasons where he wasn't. In this case, we had the Kung Fu Master I say mess with Rick's spaceship, causing an instant backup fender bender, and in which the Kung Fu Master decides, you know what, I'm going to put his life in peril by giving a 5-point exploding heart technique from Kill Bill Volume 2. Now, as I said, if you remember Kill Bill, you hit these 5 points. There are pressure points around the heart. And if you walk 5 steps, they explode. An interesting twist. Yeah, apparently if you walk backwards, it can't really affect you. Now, I'm going to say this. Walk backwards is the key word. And yeah, bipedal movement is rather important for these 2 episodes I'm reviewing. By the way, I did not see the recent ReZero episode that aired last night. I'll have to do a review for that one. The mid-season finale. Getting back to it. Most of the episode, Rick is moving backwards, where all you really see is either his face in a mirror or on a projector, or let me phrase it, a screen. It's kind of funny because he later builds a machine that hovers, so it involves absolutely no walking, but he's still facing backwards to everybody else. It makes absolutely no sense because we've already established you need to walk for this exploding heart technique to work. I mean, is he that afraid or something? Like some magical problems here? I have to say this: most of the interaction between Rick and the Kung Fu Master is very funny. The other parts of the episode, they really go on quite a bit. Now, of course, Morty ends up meeting the Kung Fu Master too at Aldi Nord. Well, let's see if my European viewers pay attention to this one. Aldi Nord. If you haven't figured out, there's 2 Aldis. Aldi Sud and Aldi Nord. Aldi Sud is the one that's around North America and England. Aldi Nord is the Aldi that's in France and, well, also owns Trader Joe's, where much of the episode takes place. Either Trader Joe's parking lot or actually inside the store. And of course, Morty actually calls out the Kung Fu Master who's teaching him all the nice non-violent parts of Kung Fu to him. And he's actually feeling pretty relaxed until the Kung Fu Master meets this cable guy who the Kung Fu Master immediately feels overcharged and immediately does a 5-point exploding heart technique. At that point, the guy's like, look, I got to do my work. Starts walking 5 steps, dies, and Morty calls him out for murder. At that point, the Kung Fu Master's like, are you questioning me? And gives it to him as well. Now, Rick later builds a smaller hover machine for Morty, and they end up going to the Kung Fu Master's sensei. And apparently, outside the first couple of minutes, of their interaction, this gets very long after a while. At this point, the Kung Fu Master apparently is having problems with his daughter, who's apparently in a non-monogonistic relationship with 7 people. I do love the fact when he says, like, yeah, back in my day, we used to call it slut. That said, it kind of goes on a little too long here. Then, of course, we go back to they find out that, hey, we now figured out how to basically stop the exploding heart technique. But he later also reverse engineers it so he can use nanobots in his bloodstream and instantly learn kung fu. So him and Morty do that and challenge the kung fu master. Gets to the point where the entire town gets destroyed. And out of nowhere, we had a product placement. Nobody probably saw it coming. The Hawaiian Punch mascot shows up in the sky, telling him you have to be refreshed when it comes to kung fu, when it comes to, especially to the punch. I'm going to teach you nonviolence by calling out my champion just to beat you up. Yeah, let's show nonviolence and more violence. Of course, they eventually unify. I guess it's trivial at this point. Defeat it, and of course, all is back to right in the world. By the way, Jerry's pool is currently filthy. And Jerry gets a bot, and the reason why, because Keith, the pool guy, makes him feel inferior. Yeah, really going on a stretch one here, right, writers? And then, of course, we get more of the writers' fetishes coming in to play when writing about this stuff. Yeah, apparently Jerry ends up fornicating with the pool bot. We later find out that Jerry also, gets a little nervous when it comes to the fact that the pool bot's trying to break him and Beth up. Yeah, it's more of the season 5 writing here. We also later find out that Beth is doing, getting off on her own hair dryer. Yeah, this is kind of where the episode really lags. More fetish writing for no apparent reason. Jerry eventually figures out that the best way to destroy the bot is simply lure it into I don't know how YouTube's going to treat this, so I'm just going to say precarious situation where he drowns it, takes out him and Keith take out the main processor, and then they basically destroy it there, and then have a huge pool party. This episode is very much a mixed bag, as you're going to get. You have a pretty funny part with Rick and the Kung Fu Master, and then you have virtually everything else. Not a great episode. Let's talk about episode 2, the episode 4 in this way. And once again, we have to deal with Rick getting drunk. Haven't had one of these in a while. It's kind of interesting going back to this and how Rick basically has his 2-point process of getting into his computer. Rick's all drunk, like many people, can't remember his password. So what is he? So he either gets locked down, and Rick. It's basically it's his entire lab becomes basically a turtle shell. Can't get through anything. It locks him out. Morty comes in, notices he's drunk, and then they get a call from someone named Reese. Yeah, we never actually met Reese before. So this is the first time. He's apparently voiced by Owen Wilson. Random one here. Apparently, Owen Wilson's character Reese takes him fishing on a weird planet, and for some reason that makes Morty happy, and Rick can get back into his computer again. This is stuff I kind of liked from the early seasons, like just random stuff to get from point A to point B. Ah, of course, we eventually find out that Reese is a robot and actually a point of trying to get into a computer. And it obviously angers Morty because Morty likes Reese. I do like the fact that finally Beth's like, I'm getting very concerned the fact that Morty's having a lot of adults for friends. Here's one adult that won't be his friend, King Jellybean. Fall back to season 1. Now, there was one joke I didn't get initially because there were Beth actually finally asked him, where does that endless alcohol come from? Which Rick says it comes from a planet full of pig people. I initially didn't get it until later in the episode. So that's a pretty good long-term joke here. Eventually, Morty strands Keith just to keep him free on the pig planet. And of course, they basically hack the computer. So Rick, apparently because, I kind of like the fact that he basically has been using your people for weird stuff. We even get a joke that the floor is lava. Why? Because Rick has a security measure that which the floor actually is turned into lava. Uh, there is a pretty good, interesting beast plot where Jerry's actually being possessed by a cloud guy. Apparently, cloud as in, computers where it basically like to keep files and stuff. And in this case, it's an actual cloud. And of course, the moment the cloud gets sentient over Jerry's bipedal body, he immediately takes out for a ride, like going through a car wash. Once again, it's kind of interesting. We didn't get the kung fu guy to give a 5-point exploding art technique, which would be kind of funny that they made that call back. Uh, so basically, the entire episode, the cloud technician guy is possessing Jerry. Although for a couple of minutes, he actually possessed one of the pig guys. I'll call him an orc because that's kind of what they are. So he's possessing one of the orc, and he's like, I think you should kill yourself. Let me help. And starts killing them. Oh, there's more murder to be mentioned in this review, so please stay tuned. Eventually, Rick gets possession of his Keith again because Keith gets back to the Smith house through the flask, the interdimensional flask. Once again, I didn't get the joke immediately until later that the orcs were the ones producing the alcohol. They later reprogrammed Keith, actually putting the cloud guy in the body. And then, of course, Rick immediately goes upon destroying the orc civilization. Because you have to have a little bit of vainness into Rick, don't you? Great episode. Anyway, I did like this episode. It's a very good episode. It got more to what the old school Rick and Morty used to be. Let's get to the more disturbing one. Let's get to ReZero. This is the penultimate episode of the first half of season 4. Subaru has just killed Meili. But as you know, the current Subaru, who doesn't have memories of this, is come back to consciousness. He immediately stores the body, and then they discuss what happened to Meili, because especially when they find Meili's book in the Book of the Dead, in the Library of the Dead. Memorably, Subaru opens the book. We find Meili's backstory. Her family felt intimidated by Meili's powers. They brought him out to the Mob Beast forest. Meili gets taken in by the Mob Beast. And now let's face it, everyone's favorite vampire comes back. uh, the Bell Hunter. And apparently we find out who her boss really is. Capella. Yeah, Capella's in this episode. We never see her face, but yeah, she's in this episode. Apparently she ends up trying to groom Meili into being a killer. And we later find out that yeah, obviously we end up fast forwarding right to the point where we find out that Subaru is obviously possessed, talking in like weird vibes that a lot of the archbishops do. Wonder who's possessing him. It's almost like if Chris is really Eris. Oh, sorry, gave more spoilers. And obviously, the possessed Subaru chokes out Meili, strangles him. I'm wondering that once again, we're dealing with weird fetish here. Someone loves strangulation. Subaru, I didn't know you were dealing with Rick and Morty season 5 writers. Sorry, when you have the Naruto, the incest baby in space, yeah, you kind of went a little too far with writing. Ah, finally, we come up to the fact that nobody was able to find the body while Subaru is basically being contained, or as they phrase it, detained. Eventually, Subaru gets up and goes to the actual place where Meili's body is. Now, it should be noted there was actually a review before where he actually tells Shala to find the body. It's probably assumed that, yeah, Shala probably took care of the body. However, you also, I didn't get this immediately until the end of the episode that Rom could actually see right through Padrache's eyes. And obviously that Subaru was going into the special room and she ends up confronting him. To me, one of the best parts of the episode, and actually one of the freakiest part of the episodes, was Meili. Yeah, Meili's memory. Subaru's constantly remembering her and always showing up with a couple of words, like a shit-eating grin. Usually, there is one scene where she shows up between Subaru's legs, and I'm wondering if Chris Hansen's going to show up in this episode, telling Subaru, "Yeah, I have a seat over there. I'm going to ask you a few questions." Uh, I have no idea why the animators decided to do that one, that angle. I thought we were done with this when I did the Rick and Morty review. It's very freaky. I thought this episode was very excellent writing when it comes to psychological horror. Someone trying to figure out that they did something wrong and how they actually did it. It was a great. This was a great episode leading into episode 11, the penultimate episode of season 4, first half. I really wonder what the writer is going to do. Had a lot of fun with it, and I pretty much think you could talk your ears off for almost 20 minutes here. Anyway, I will be doing a review for the penultimate episode. Should be coming up soon. Sorry, the actual finale for season 4, the first half. Hope to get out for you. Till then, bye.